Well, in his new book, Politics Between the Extremes, Nick Clegg hopes to set the record straight. And I think you have. It's interesting, isn't it? Good to see you. Good to see you. When we look back to Clegg Mania, as it was called, and I remember, obviously, with the debates.
Fleeting experience.
Yeah, but that... How did your feet stay on the ground? Because you were, you know, lauded to the skies.
I kind of think in politics, in particular, but I suppose in life generally, you shouldn't allow compliments to go to your head, and you shouldn't allow insults to go to your heart, if you see what I mean. And,
no, absolutely.
And I've always in what I've tried to do, just sort of try to keep my feet sort of firmly on the ground, and having a strong family and sort of going back home every evening and not obsessing about politics helps as well.
No, very much
so.
Miriam wouldn't have let you get big-headed.
No,
it wouldn't have happened. It definitely
would not have allowed
happened.
that, no.
But to be so popular and then, you know, to be reviled in the end. Sometimes people think that politicians are almost like cartoons, but you're human beings with real feelings, and that must have been very difficult for you.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think politicians, and I include myself in this, deserve any pity at any time. It's a great honour to serve the country, and you know, it was an honour to be able to assume that responsibility, and you live by the sword and you die by the sword. It was frustrating to constantly trying to explain to people that in a coalition government you had to make compromises, and every time you made a compromise, people called it a betrayal, and you know, so I found that frustrating. That, you know, I just couldn't sort of try and explain what I thought was difficult, but it was a dilemma which I'd hoped people would at least recognise and understand. And also, I was really proud of stuff that the government did over those 5 years. It was a very turbulent time in the economy. The
trouble was, to a certain extent, I suppose, the Tories and David Cameron kind of took your ideas. They sort of stole your thunder in many ways. And do you not think you made enough noise?
Well, I tried to make noise. I'm no doubt I could have tried to make more. I mean, unfortunately, if you look at coalitions around Europe, time and time again, the smaller parties get all the blame for the bad stuff, and the bigger parties, for one reason or another, tend to hoover up all the credit for the good stuff. And that certainly happened in the coalition between myself and David Cameron. And you know, and also, I mean, it's just a fact of life. There are lots of newspapers who support the Conservatives rather than Liberal Democrats. So, you know, when we cut taxes for millions of low and middle-income workers, which was our idea, they said it was a great Conservative idea. Gay marriage was initially a Liberal Democrat
David Cameron
idea.
says that's the best part of his legacy.
No,
that's what he's saying. You know,
it was a Liberal Democrat minister, Lynn Featherstone, who started all that.
But nobody remembers that. Nobody remembers that.
Yeah, well, hopefully if they read the book, they'll
will.
know what happened.
Now, going back to you, the trouble with politics sometimes, and you talk about this in the book as well, you got fat. And you got stressed, and you got pneumonia.
Penny Ashton came into my office and said, "You're fat."
Did
barked him. I went, "Oh, don't
you're a nice pal."
Yeah, I know. He said, "You've got to get thinner." The military command. So I did actually. It's a much more physical job being in frontline politics than you might imagine, because you're constantly on display. You can never just go. Oh, you can never sort of slump. It's 7 days a week. It's 24 hours a day, and I think that's probably accelerated over time just because of the 24-hour media.
Of course, and social media and all that.
So you know, one tip I would have to anyone who's watching this who wants to go into politics: it's great because it's a flawed and rough old business, but it's still the best way to resolve our differences and serve the country. But look after yourself physically.
Yeah, be healthy. You're absolutely right.
You know, I had my time. I tried my best. I actually think the coalition government will go down in history as a stable, moderate government at a very, very difficult time. We held it, you know, to the centre ground. I didn't allow it to become, you know, to swing one way or the other to the extremes, which I think is happening more and more in politics elsewhere at the moment. But no, I'm definitely going to stay on till the end of this Parliament. Whether I'll stand again in 2020, like most MPs, I'll make my mind up in the next couple of years.
It's interesting that you said that Brexit was actually was more heartbreaking for you than actually the general election result.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's happened, so we're going to have to now adapt to a new reality. But if I ask myself, you know, if I ask myself the kind of country I want my kids to live in, I've got 3 little sons, I would have preferred, obviously, for them to live in a country where they could travel and study and work freely across Europe. I think things are going to be quite different for them. I think, whether we like it or not, they will have fewer opportunities in Europe than we did. I think that's a pity. Whereas the general election, of course, it was bad, but listen, politicians come and go, parties go up and down, and the Liberal Democrats will rise again. I think the Brexit thing was a bigger thing with longer, permanent consequences. We really need a credible opposition. Yes.
Do you think that the Lib Dems will rise again? Do you think, actually, the party is over, or do you think that they will come back?
Well, of course it's not over. I mean, for heaven's sake, the Liberal Democrats got 1 million more votes last year than the SNP. It's just we got this crackers electoral system, which means they get 56 seats and we get 8.
Which I know you tried to change,
anyway, but no. Look, if even at the low point in our fortunes, 2.5 million people support a party, that does not mean the parties are sort of dead as a dodo. No, we're winning elections again. What I do think, however, is I do think parties need to work together more because, you know, at the moment, the kind of pendulum of politics has just got sort of stuck and the Conservatives, almost accidentally, are in power with whatever it is, 24% of the eligible vote. That's not healthy when people are in power, don't have much of a mandate and there isn't much of a challenge to them. So I think other parties do need to work together more on a lot of the big issues where the people in power need to be kept on their toes.
For more great moments from the show, click here. And don't forget to subscribe.